Why tidy your mind? I was thinking yesterday as I went for a walk about the benefits of my own life and what I've experienced from being able to tidy my mind. I've done a lot of emotional work on myself, a lot of spiritual work. I've read a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of videos. I've done a lot. I've done a lot of personal development work on myself. And in all of that work, I did come up with a process of the tidy mind, which you have seen before. If you haven't, you can watch that on YouTube. I have a 3-part series talking about the tidy mind and the tidy mind house. But why do we do it? Like, what is the point? Today I want to talk about the emotional world versus the logical world. And many of the people that I talk to, the clients that I talk to one-on-one, they are trying to understand their minds in order to come out of the emotional world. They've been living in the emotional world most of their lives, from the things that they've experienced, the things that, the wounds that have been created from the way, things they experienced growing up, things that they've witnessed, things that they misunderstood about the situation, the circumstances that they were in, lies about themselves that they've believed. All of this all of this is just ingredients to create a world of emotion, a world of upset, a world of, you're going through life and things that you witnessed are processed through your emotional mind. So everything is personal, everything is upsetting, everything leads to drama, everything leads to some type of meltdown. Your mind makes meaning out of everything, your mind reads into everything. This is the emotional world. And most of my clients are trying to retire from that world. They're trying to move out of that world. So their tidy minds, their minds right now are emotional minds. And it's a mind made of problems. And the mind brings up all of these problems and issues, and everything's a problem. And they're trying to come out away from that and clean up all of the stuff that is causing the constant emotional instability. And they're trying to move into what I call the mission room. They're trying to come out of the emotional world and move into a world of logic, a world where your emotions are calm and stable. Everything that is happening in your experience is not about stimulating some pain for you or some emotion. In the logical world that you can live in the mission room, you're just able to view life as from logic. This is just something that happened. It is not personal. This happened, and then this happened, and then now I'm doing this, and this is something that must be handled. It's not an attack against me. So it's a very different way to live life. So you're coming out, if you're listening to me right now and you're like, that's me, I'm in an emotional world. Everything is emotional. I'm emotional constantly. When you're in an emotional world, there's not a lot of truth floating around in your mind. Your mind is not telling you a lot of truths, a lot of facts. It is digging up what I call boxes in your basement, in your past room. It is telling you misunderstandings that it understood as a child. It is repeating those type of things to you, and you are suffering. So the logical world, when you start to clean that up, you start to clean up all of those lies from the past in the boxes in your basement of the past room. You start to clean those up. Then you're able to become more and more what I'm calling logical, but it's actually truth. You're able to live in a house that's calm, a mind house, a tidy mind house that is calm. It's not emotionally stirred up, and you're able to approach life with more truth floating around. I tell people this all the time. They come to me and they talk about somebody that they're someone in their life who is emotional. They're just in an emotional world. Their mind is really in turmoil, and they're working on themselves, but they're still living there in that emotional world. And they'll say, and I try to tell them this and this and this, and it just makes it worse, and they just get madder, and they just get more upset, and it's not working. And I'm like, well, you're trying to talk to an emotional person with facts and logic or defending yourself, and it's not going to work. You can't talk to someone in that space. When someone's in an emotional space, you have to take a step back. It's like a raging fire. So that fire is raging. That person's they're not able to hear truth. They're not able to hear logic. All they know is the pain. They know the truth of the pain. They know what their mind is saying. The reason that they're in pain is it's usually because someone else is not doing something right, or someone else is not meeting their need, or whatever it is. And the mind confuses everything. So this person is living in this emotional world, is in pain and suffering and confusion, and they need help. So I advise the person standing on the outside of this raging fire of a person to not get too close, but also don't leave them. That makes it worse. Don't abandon them in this time of need. They're struggling. It's like they're drowning, and they're going to throw anything and everything at you because they're coming from an intense fear in those emotional moments. So they're saying lots of things that aren't true. They're saying lots of things that are coming out of pain. And you have to step back and you have to really ground yourself and say, whoa. I can either get emotional with them, I can go into my emotional world, and I can pull some stuff out of my basement and attack them back with that, or I can stand here in a space of calm, in a space of truth, and say, they're scared right now. They're in an emotional world. They haven't quite tidied their mind yet, and that's okay. Like, we all have those moments where we get sucked back into that emotional world. But that's why we're doing the work. And I say all of that just to say that's why you want to do your personal development. That's why you want to clean out those boxes of the past, learn what's in there that's stirring up your emotions. And then what happens when you're able to come out of that emotional world and you're able to stay in your mission room more and more, life becomes not about what all the stuff that's been done to you, all the horrible things in the world, how you're suffering, all the pain. It becomes not about that anymore. It now becomes about you creating a life for yourself that you enjoy. It becomes about the facts. It becomes about, this is what's happening and this is what I can do about it. It becomes proactive. It becomes something that you can uh, enjoy, that you're not suffering from. You're not the victim of life. You're not the victim of your life. You're not the victim of its circumstances. And that can't happen until you put out all the little fires in the basement, all the hurts from the past. And you might think, how does that, surely that can't be what's causing my emotion today. It is, trust me, it is. I've done enough sessions. You can ask, I'm not a psychologist, but you can ask any psychologist out there if that is the reason, and it is. And you have to go into those boxes in the basement and you have to look at that stuff, no matter if you want to or not, and get some relief. And then there's also retraining your mind, after you've done that work. And I have some clients that we've done that, and their mind still wants to create a problem out of it. Some of it's habit, some of it's tendency of their mind, and you have to become that caretaker and say, we don't do that anymore. I know you're wanting to make a problem out of this, but we don't do that anymore. And you have to teach, just like you're teaching a child. You have to teach your own mind. That's not proactive for us. That takes us into a really deep, dark place. We've been there, and we've looked at all the stuff in the basement, and I've let you have your say about it. I've apologized to you about it. And you said it was you were satisfied with it, but here you're talking about it again. So when you find yourself in that place, that's when you have to say, wait a minute, this is just habit now. This is just habit to find a problem in things. So there's a lot to it. It can get I don't want it to be overwhelming. There is a lot to it. The point of what I'm saying today is there is a better space to live. There is a better kind of mental space to live in, and it's a more logical, factual space, and it's a less emotional space. And if you're in that emotional space and you find yourself in that emotional space more than once a week, all that it is there's some pain of the past that just needs to be resolved. And then you may also have some mental habits that need to be broken. And as you become the caretaker of your mind, you become more capable of helping your mind through those things, helping your mind overcome those habits, and then moving into a more logical space to view the world from. And then life is not full of suffering, but life is full of creation.